Good evening. I'm Mayor Ron Nirenberg with Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolff. We're joined tonight by RITA ESPINOZA, who is our Chief of Epidemiology at San Antonio Metro Health, and this is our COVID-19 update for the San Antonio community. Tonight we're reporting 154 new cases of COVID-19, which brings our total after the weekend in updates to 200,818. Our 7-day rolling average is now at 171. Thankfully, today we do not have any new deaths to report tonight, but although I do want to remind you that we have suffered much throughout the year, and with the updates over the weekend, we now have 2,990 neighbors, friends, and family members who have been lost to the COVID-19 virus. Please keep them and their families in your prayers this evening. Again, each one of these numbers is a loved one who we dearly miss. Over in our hospitals tonight, we are continuing to see more improvements. There are 215 COVID-19 patients in the hospital. That's the lowest number again since early November. Over the last 24 hours, there were 22 new admissions, 90 patients in the ICU, and 53 are on ventilators. It's Monday, and I do want to update you on our progress and warning indicators. We have had a downturn in the number of tests over the week, which may be an indication of the spring break lull. Some of the ISDs, again, not testing as they had been doing in previous weeks. The overall positivity rate has climbed to 5.6%. That's a 3% increase from last week. We're going to be watching that very closely as we get into the new reporting indicators next week. Again, the number of tests conducted last week had dropped dramatically. Still, the risk indicator bar remains at low, and that's good news again, but please do not let your guard down. We continue to practice our health and safety protocols, including wearing of masks. As of yesterday in Bexar County, we've had 364,179 people who have received their first dose, and 206,000 even who have been fully vaccinated here in our community. That's a good number. That's more people than have been infected, so we have crossed that threshold, and that's a good indication of how this progress has gone. Starting today, vaccination phase 1C will now allow people who are 50 years and above to qualify to get vaccinated again. We are working very hard to get more doses into our community so we can get as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible. Let me turn it over now to Judge Wolff.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think that even though we went up 3 points to 5.6, I do believe a lot of that has to do with very little testing. We only tested 20,047. That's a 38,760 decrease from the previous week. So I think it distorts that number. I want to thank Kathy Etheridge. She sent me this bandana today. It's got a great little quote on it. It says, "Two old hippies, rock, love, and love, peace, and rock and roll." It goes together pretty good. I want to thank the mayor for speaking out on what happened with Mike Nugent at the Noodle Tree. I was going to go by there today and thank him for standing up and taking my book, but he's closed till Thursday, I think. So that's a terrible thing what they did to him in his restaurant, and I just don't understand people's attitude when they do something like that, to come back to your business and see that written on your window, no mask, kung fu. I mean, that's some sick people in our community, although it's not very many of them, but they are around. We did a good job over on Saturday on the vaccinations. We did 4,551, and that was teachers, school personnel, and healthcare workers who didn't get their shot to begin with. We ended up with the week with 22,271, and now we're at a total of 188,846 at the Bexar County Hospital site at Wonderland, as well as the downtown hospital we're in. So they're continuing to do a really good job on that, and we're very appreciative. As the mayor said, we're still facing a problem. We had 7 new deaths, I think, over the weekend. May not be promoting any today, but I think 7 over the weekend. So this thing is not over. We just need to continue to be careful and mask up. And I must say, I was at HEB, I was at Lowe's, I was at Home Depot, and everybody I saw had a mask on. And I think that's terrific, really terrific.
Great. Thank you, Judge. Yes, definitely seeing a lot of folks being mindful of our public health guidance and continuing to protect themselves and their neighbors. I do want to also mention that it's concerning to see that the impact spring break is having on our blood donations here and across the country. Locally, the South Texas Blood and Tissue Center is seeing 50 to 100 fewer donations every day. That means that blood supplies are critically low. Demand for blood has been 45% higher than normal as well. So inventory is down from last week, dropping to a critical level at just over a 2-day supply. The inventory of type O blood, which is needed in emergencies, is even lower at just over a half-day supply. That is very concerning for everyone here in this community. So if you can make an appointment, please do so by going to southtexasblood.org. You can also schedule to give blood at University Hospital by calling 210-358-2812. I'll also say I'm excited to share that the city's Hospitality Grants Program application opened this morning. The application period will be open for 3 weeks and close Monday, April 5th at 11 p.m. Central. All submitted applications will be reviewed. The city committed $30 million in 2020 to fund grants to more than 1,220 small businesses and nonprofits through the Recovery Resiliency Program, of which $8.4 million funded grants for food and beverage industry. However, we know that the need remains great, which is why we've allocated an additional $14 million to provide grants to small businesses in the hospitality industry with an emphasis on food and beverage. For those who need help with the application process, we do have many people working closely with the LIFT Fund to provide resources that can assist small businesses. There's a dedicated website and customer service line. There's the ability to schedule one-on-one appointments to submit the application and relevant documents. And there's also informational seminars to review the application, eligibility criteria, and other frequently asked questions. Webinars are now scheduled for March 16th, that's tomorrow, from 2 p.m., and at March 24th at 12 p.m. Please visit www.cityofsanantoniorecoverygrants.com to register for a webinar. You can also learn more about the program and apply at that site. You can also scan the QR code, and I think we're going to flash that on the screen now to take you to that website. And the website number to call for assistance is 1-800-494 4973, excuse me. I'd like to give a special thanks to our LIFT Fund partners, Janie Barrera, Selena Pena, and the entire LIFT Fund team for their partnership. Also, remember, you can sign up for text alerts for vaccine appointments when they become available. You can text vaccine or vacuna to 55000. And all of our assistance programs, including emergency housing assistance and work training programs to get people back to work, are available at 311, or you can go to the website at covid19.sanantonio.gov, where you can also get the latest on the virus here in our community. As always, continue to protect yourself, your family, and your friends from this virus. Let's continue to do our part, mask up, practice social distancing and proper hygiene so we can get to the end of this pandemic together. Do it for yourself, do it for your family, and do it for San Antonio. Rita, myself, and the judge are available for questions.
We know that over 1 million people in Bexar County were qualified for vaccinations during Phase 1B, with Phase 1C now rolling out and people over 50 years old eligible to get the vaccine. Approximately how much of Bexar County is now eligible to receive the vaccine?
I believe the population of 16 and older was 1.6 million. So that was the number that we were looking at for 16 and up. So I don't know exactly how many are between the 50 to 64. I'll have to look at that statistic, unless you know it.
Yeah, I think they were talking about roughly 3/4 of the population at this point being eligible. So it's a significant number, and obviously trying to get as many doses in here as possible, as quickly as possible.
Mayor, what kind of impact do you expect the hospitality grants to have for San Antonio small businesses? And is this mostly to retain employees?
It's for, again, to retain employees, to keep the lights on, to put small businesses in the food and beverage industry who have been suffering mightily through this pandemic in the best position possible to open up robustly as, again, consumers come back. We also are going to be working with the small business community to apply for the federal relief that's available, the PPP grants. We were providing technical assistance through our Economic Development Department and our local partners. So the city and the county have been working very hard through the year to provide funding available to our small business community and the technical assistance to pull down significant funding that's been made available through the federal government, including this latest American Rescue Plan.
Last year, City Council passed a resolution against discrimination and aggression against Asians. How will that resolution help in the case of the Asian restaurant that was vandalized with hate messages over the weekend?
Well, first, I'd just again say that we have unfortunately seen the best of our communities and the worst during this pandemic across the country. And one of the worst elements of that is that we've seen a rise in anti-Semitic and anti-Asian hate during this pandemic. It's an empirical truth. And what we have to do, and what we did as a council in passing that resolution, is call it out, elevate it, so that we can make sure that we can eradicate it from our communities. And the quick response from neighbors that came out, customers, to help clean up the Noodle Tree restaurant and to help Chef Mike and his team was a great display of the kind of compassionate action that's necessary to stamp out hate when it does rear its head in our community.
You know, I don't recall this bad being directed against the Asian community, but a lot of harsh rhetoric came out of Washington, particularly with respect to COVID, blaming it on the Chinese, other attacks, and you know, when words do hurt, they will hurt, and I think we're seeing the outcome of some of that reckless rhetoric.
What more can be done to help combat cases like this, or what should the response be?
Well, again, I would say that, number one, we need to ask the community if they have any tips that could lead to the apprehension of those involved. Please help by calling SAPD. You can report anonymous tips that way. We are also going to pursue and make sure that justice is served and that we get to the bottom of this and people are held accountable. But in terms of how do we make sure that racism is not acceptable and it's not normalized behavior, which we've too often seen over the last several years? I think it requires leaders and members of the community in general to stand up and speak out when it does occur. Thankfully, here in the city of San Antonio, there has been no exception to that, whether it's racism directed at a group, whether it's the marginalization of people, whether it's bigoted behavior towards the gay and transgender community. Regardless of the object of hate, we have to stand up and call it out and make sure that it's stamped out when it occurs.
You know, one wonderful thing happened when a number of people showed up on, I think it was Sunday, I guess, to clean off this ugly graffiti off of his building. And, I mean, that showed that citizens are standing up and, you know, don't tolerate these sort of actions, but it's only a small minority that can cause a great deal of trouble, though.
Mayor, last week you said you were not aware of any migrants being brought here by bus. Has that changed? And do city and county leaders anticipate that there will be a need for our community to assist with border overflow? And please shed light on any discussions you're having regarding housing migrants in San Antonio.
So we have not gotten any confirmed reports of migrants via bus being brought to San Antonio in the way they were several years ago. We have been hearing continued reports of unaccompanied minors and others, and so we're trying to make inquiries to the federal government to find out what's going on, what we need to expect in communities around here, including San Antonio. So we're trying to get some answers. But at this point, there are none, and we're going to continue to seek that out and provide as much information as we can when we have it.
Yes, FEMA steps in trying to find other safe havens for these young people coming across the border. I know they're getting stretched to the limits at the border. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some come to San Antonio.
With the women's Final Four scheduled to be in San Antonio next month, how excited are you for the city and downtown businesses looking forward to increased foot traffic?
You know, again, I'm excited that the NCAA has seen San Antonio as the best place to have a tournament, and in light of what we've been experiencing over the last week, the best place to have a safe tournament. So I am excited about seeing some activity, economic activity brought to our community. I'm excited that the people who are involved with the NCAA are taking safety as the first priority. So there will be a little bit of a boost, and it will be done safely, and I think that's something that we should all be proud of and excited about.
Yeah, I think a good example of that is what the Spurs did last Friday. I think they had 3,000 fans into an auditorium of about 18,000, and they handled it just right, requiring face masks, and didn't have any incidents that I know of. And I think the NAACP will be even probably more cautious in being careful about how many people come to the game, if any, and how they're protecting their players with all the protocols that they've started even before they get here. So I think it's going to be a great event.
I went down to look at how they've set up some of those practice courts, and it is amazing the level of logistics planning that they have, down to the individual player movements, how they get on the court and off the court, making sure that they don't come in contact with people. They're going to be testing the players every single day. If any single one of those players comes up with a positive test, there's going to be pressure, and it's going to make it very difficult for that team to continue to advance in the tournament. So the level of planning, safety planning, has been just incredible, down to the detail. And then, of course, those 64 teams that are going to be here, they're going to provide a little bit of a boost to the businesses in San Antonio, which is also a very good thing.
That's all we have tonight. Thank you.